Budapest, Hungary, December 7, 2025. The city glows under winter skies, but beneath the calm surface, a political earthquake is shaking the heart of Europe. In a stunning and unexpected move, Hungary has officially announced its decision to join the BRICS economic bloc, a coalition of emerging powers that includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This marks a dramatic shift in Hungary's foreign policy, sending shockwaves through the European continent and beyond. Prime Minister Viktor Orbán's office confirmed the news in a televised address, declaring the dawn of a new era for Hungary, one defined by what he called sovereign foreign policy. Orbán emphasized that Hungary would now pursue its own path, independent of traditional Western alliances. For the first time in history, a member of both the European Union and NATO has formally aligned itself with a group widely regarded as a counterweight to Western influence. This unprecedented step has left many questioning the future of Europe's post-Cold War order. In Brussels and Washington, the reaction was swift and severe. European and American leaders responded with disbelief, condemnation, and urgent calls for emergency meetings. The sense of betrayal was palpable, as Hungary's decision was seen as a direct challenge to the unity and values of the Western alliance. This decision strikes at the very foundations of post-Cold War European unity, raising fears of a new era of division and uncertainty. The European project, once seen as an unstoppable force for integration, now faces a test unlike any before. Orbán has long courted closer ties with Russia and China, often clashing with Brussels over issues of democracy and rule of law. Yet, even his critics were surprised by the boldness of this move, which many see as crossing a line that was once thought unthinkable for an EU member. Hungary, once celebrated as a model of successful Western integration after the fall of communism, now finds itself straddling two divergent geopolitical worlds. On the streets of Budapest, EU flags flutter, alongside growing signs of new alliances, as ordinary Hungarians grapple with what this means for their future. Critics warn that this is more than just a diplomatic maneuver. They call it the raising of a new curtain, not of iron and barbed wire, but of political and economic allegiance. The specter of division, once thought banished from Europe, is returning in a new form. The European Union now faces an unprecedented crisis. Can it maintain cohesion and credibility when one of its own openly partners with its strategic rivals? Leaders are scrambling to find a response that will preserve unity without pushing Hungary further away. Hungary's move calls into question the very narrative of European history. Does it truly bend toward deeper integration, or are old divisions destined to re-emerge in new guises? The dream of a united Europe is suddenly under threat. In Brussels, leaders are locked in tense discussions, weighing sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and the risk of setting a precedent. The stakes could not be higher, as the world watches to see whether the EU can hold together in the face of internal dissent. The choices made in the coming weeks and months will shape not only Hungary's future, but the very trajectory of the European project itself. Will Europe find a way to adapt, or will this be the first crack in a new continental divide? The symbolism is heavy and inescapable. Hungary, once at the forefront of tearing down the Iron Curtain and opening its borders to the west, now stands accused of building a new one. This time, not of steel and concrete, but of shifting allegiances and uncertain loyalties. The world is watching, holding its breath to see what comes next. As Hungary steps into uncharted territory, the consequences will ripple far beyond its borders, shaping the future of Europe, and perhaps the world, for years to come. Hungary's pivot to BRICS is the result of Orbán's long-term Eastern opening strategy. Since 2010, he's sought to diversify Hungary's alliances, arguing that the 21st century belongs to Asia. By joining BRICS, Hungary steps outside the EU's framework, signaling it sees its future with powerful non-Western nations. Orbán frames this as reclaiming sovereignty from what he calls an overreaching Brussels. For his supporters, it's a bold act of defiance. For critics, a breach of EU commitments. The move forces Europe to confront whether the Union can accommodate such divergent foreign policy goals. Hungary's decision is a test of the EU's ability to manage dissent and maintain unity. The divide between deeper integration and national sovereignty has never been starker. Hungary's history is marked by a constant struggle between East and West, a tug-of-war that has shaped its national identity for centuries. From the days of the Austro-Hungarian Empire to the devastation of World War II, Hungary has often found itself at the crossroads of competing powers, forced to navigate a delicate balance between influence and independence. 4 decades under Soviet rule left deep scars on the Hungarian psyche. The iron grip of communism stifled freedom, creativity, and economic growth, while families were divided and dissent was harshly punished. Yet, beneath the surface, a longing for Western integration and the hope for a better future quietly simmered. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 brought a wave of euphoria across Hungary. Suddenly, the impossible seemed within reach, joining NATO and the European Union, reconnecting with the West, and embracing democracy and prosperity. For many, it was a moment of national rebirth and optimism. But as the years passed, the honeymoon with the West began to fade. Political pressures from Brussels often clashed with Hungary's deep-seated desire for autonomy and self-determination. Debates over migration, economic policy, and national sovereignty exposed growing rifts. Under Viktor Orbán's leadership, the government increasingly viewed EU demands as threats to Hungary's unique culture and national identity. Policies from Brussels were met with skepticism, and the rhetoric of protecting Hungarian values grew louder. As economic challenges persisted and political tensions rose, disillusionment with the Western model grew. Many Hungarians began to question whether the promises of integration had truly delivered, laying the groundwork for seeking new alternatives. For some, the idea of aligning with BRICS feels like a betrayal of the sacrifices made for freedom and Western ideals. For others, it's seen as a pragmatic response to a changing world, a way to assert Hungary's independence and pursue new opportunities beyond the West. Hungary's current pivot is deeply rooted in this complex interplay of memory, pride, and grievance. The echoes of past struggles continue to shape the nation's choices as it seeks a path that honors its history while adapting to new realities. Today, the nation stands at a critical juncture, torn between the weight of its past and the uncertainty of its future. The road ahead is unclear, but Hungary's long walk westward is far from over. Its next steps will define its place in the world for generations to come. Orbán's BRICS move is about sovereignty, Hungary's right to chart its own course. He argues the EU's federalist ambitions threaten national identity. Economically, Hungary seeks new markets and investment, especially as EU funds are frozen. The government hopes dual membership in the EU and BRICS will boost its diplomatic leverage. But Brussels sees this as a smokescreen for eroding democracy and embracing autocracies. The EU warns that Hungary can't enjoy single market benefits while undermining unity. This clash has escalated into a full-blown institutional crisis. Hungary is gambling on a risky new role as a bridge between East and West. BRICS, now expanded to include nations like Iran and Egypt, challenges the Western-led global order. The bloc offers alternatives to Western financial institutions and emphasizes sovereignty and non-interference. For Hungary, facing frozen EU funds, BRICS' new development bank is a tempting alternative. Within BRICS, there are no lectures on democracy or rule of law, an appealing contrast to the EU. Hungary bets on a multipolar future, seeking economic benefits and a seat at a new global table. But this means aligning with countries at odds with Hungary's traditional allies. The contradiction at the heart of Hungary's foreign policy is now impossible to ignore. The world order is shifting, and Hungary is staking its claim. Hungary's BRICS move carries enormous risks. The EU has already frozen billions in funds, and harsher penalties may follow. Western investors may flee, wary of Hungary's unpredictable orientation. Aligning with BRICS while in the EU's single market could create legal chaos for Hungarian businesses. Within NATO, Hungary's trustworthiness is now in question, especially given Russia's role in BRICS. Allies may restrict Hungary's access to intelligence and strategic planning. Domestically, the decision deepens divisions between government supporters and pro-European opposition. Regionally, it alienates Hungary from its Visegrad partners. The intended show of strength may leave Hungary more isolated and vulnerable than ever. The price of this pivot could be far higher than its architects imagine. Hungary's decision to join BRICS has sent shockwaves through the country, exposing deep divisions that run through every layer of society. The move has not only sparked heated debates in parliament and on the streets, but also in homes, workplaces, and even among friends and families. Supporters of the government hail the decision as a bold assertion of national sovereignty, a chance for Hungary to chart its own course and seize new economic opportunities. They see BRICS membership as a way to break free from what they perceive as Western dominance and to open doors to fresh investments and partnerships. "We need friends in the East as well as the West," says one Orban supporter, echoing a sentiment that Hungary should not be limited by old alliances but should instead embrace a multipolar world. Many believe that joining BRICS will bring respect on the global stage and offer opportunities for growth without the strings attached by Western institutions. For them, it's a chance to diversify Hungary's alliances and secure a more independent future. But critics, especially among the younger and more urban population, feel a profound sense of betrayal and anxiety. They worry that Hungary is turning its back on the European Union and the values of democracy, freedom and openness that they cherish. "We feel European. This is stealing our future," says a university student, her voice trembling with emotion. Many young people fear that closer ties with authoritarian regimes could threaten their rights and limit their opportunities to live, work, and study across Europe. Opposition leaders have been quick to condemn the government's move, warning that it could lead to lost freedoms, economic decline, and a betrayal of Hungary's hard-won democratic legacy. They argue that the decision was made without proper public debate or consent. The controversy has deepened the rift between government loyalists and pro-European voices, fueling a climate of mistrust and polarization that is felt across the nation. For many ordinary Hungarians, this is not just a question of sovereignty or economics, but a fundamental choice about the country's identity and future direction. Some fear that aligning with autocratic powers could lead to international isolation and a loss of freedoms they have come to value. The Hungarian people did not have a direct say in this historic decision. Many feel their voices have been ignored, and that such a crucial step should have been put to a national referendum. As dusk falls over Budapest, the nation stands at a crossroads, its future more uncertain than ever. The choices made now will shape Hungary for generations to come. European leaders reacted with shock and anger to Hungary's BRICS move. Germany and France called it a grave mistake, a breach of European unity. Central European neighbors condemned the decision, seeing it as a threat to regional security. The EU is preparing severe, retaliatory measures, including possible suspension of Hungary's voting rights. The Visegrad Group is fractured, and Hungary's isolation is deepening. Many in Brussels see this as a tragic reversal of decades of progress. "We feel like we've lost a family member," said one EU diplomat. The EU now faces the challenge of protecting its unity in the face of internal defiance. Hungary's BRICS entry pushes Europe into uncharted territory. The EU's unity is shattered, its foreign policy paralyzed by internal contradiction. The move forces a reckoning. Is the EU a pragmatic market or a community of shared values? Hungary's alignment with BRICS gives Russia and China a foothold inside the EU and NATO. For neighbors, the specter of a new East-West divide is real and alarming. The EU's response will define its future. Hardline or conciliatory, both carry risks. Hungary's path leaves Europe with more questions than answers. The continent stands at a crossroads, its future uncertain and fraught with risk.